Good evening and welcome to Third Church of Christ Scientists of New York City. Let's begin the meeting with singing hymn number 7373. Glory, honor, praise, and pure oblations unto God the Lord belong. Come into his presence with thanksgiving. Come before him with a song. In his hand is all the power of nations. Sing to him, ye joyous congregations, psalms of gratitude and praise unto God the Father raise. Number 73. I'll read from the Bible and from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. The subject of this evening's readings is communication. The Bible. Proverbs. The preparations of the heart in man and the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. Exodus. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush, and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. 1 Samuel. And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli. And the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision. And it came to pass at that time, when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. And ere the lamp of God went out in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep, that the Lord called Samuel. And he answered, Here am I. And he ran unto Eli and said, Here am I, for thou calledst me. And he said, I called not. Lie down again. And he went and lay down. And the Lord called yet again, Samuel. And Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And he answered, I called not, my son. Lie down again. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time. And he arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child. Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go, lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt say, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood and called, as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth. 1 Kings. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and withal how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, So let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. And when he saw that, he arose and went for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die, and said, It is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. And as he lay and slept under a juniper tree, behold, then an angel touched him, and said unto him, Arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baken on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink, and laid him down again. And the angel of the Lord came again the second time, and touched him, and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. And he arose, and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God. And he came thither unto a cave, and lodged there. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said unto him, What doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. Psalms. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. Matthew. Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents, and harmless as doves. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. And ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour what ye shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. Isaiah. Is not this the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye break every yoke? Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast to thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh. Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thy rearward. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here I am. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. I'll now read correlative passages from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. According to Christian Science, the only real senses of man are spiritual, emanating from divine mind. Thought passes from God to man, but neither sensation nor report goes from material body to mind. The intercommunication is always from God to his idea, man. The soul-inspired patriarchs heard the voice of truth and talked with God as consciously as man talks with man. The Hebrew lawgiver, slow of speech, despaired of making the people understand what should be revealed to him. When, led by wisdom to cast down his rod, he saw it become a serpent, Moses fled before it. But wisdom bade him come back and handle the serpent, and then Moses' fear departed. In this incident was seen the actuality of science. Matter was shown to be a belief only. The serpent, evil, under wisdom's bidding, was destroyed through understanding divine science, and this proof was a staff upon which to lean. The illusion of Moses lost its power to alarm him when he discovered that what he apparently saw was really but a phase of mortal belief. It was scientifically demonstrated that leprosy was a creation of mortal mind and not a condition of matter, when Moses first put his hand into his bosom and drew it forth white as snow with the dread disease, and presently restored his hand to its natural condition by the same simple process. God had lessened Moses' fear by this proof in divine science, and the inward voice became to him the voice of God, which said, It shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And so it was in the coming centuries, when the science of being was demonstrated by Jesus, who showed his students the power of mind by changing water into wine, and taught them how to handle serpents unharmed, to heal the sick, and cast out evils, in proof of the supremacy of mind. When understanding changes the standpoints of life and intelligence from a material to a spiritual basis, we shall gain the reality of life, the control of soul over sense, and we shall perceive Christianity or truth in its divine principle. This must be the climax before harmonious and immortal man is obtained and his capabilities revealed. It is highly important, in view of the immense work to be accomplished before this recognition of divine science can come, to turn our thoughts towards divine principle, that finite belief may be prepared to relinquish its error. The effects of Christian Science are not so much seen as felt. It is the still, small voice of truth uttering itself. We are either turning away from this utterance, or we are listening to it and going up higher. Willingness to become as a little child and to leave the old for the new renders thought receptive of the advanced idea, gladness to leave the false landmarks, and joy to see them disappear. This disposition helps to precipitate the ultimate harmony. The purification of sense and self is a proof of progress. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. A Christian Scientist occupies the place at this period of which Jesus spoke to his disciples when he said, "Ye are the salt of the earth, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on an hill cannot be hid." Let us watch, work, and pray that this salt lose not its saltness, and that this light be not hid, but radiate and glow into noontide glory. The infinite truth of the Christ cure has come to this age through a still small voice, through silent utterances, and divine anointing which quicken and increase the beneficial effects of Christianity. I long to see the consummation of my hope, namely the students' higher attainments in this line of light. A Christian Scientist requires my work, Science and Health, for his textbook, and so do all his students and patients. Why? First, because it is the voice of truth to this age and contains the full statement of Christian Science, or the science of healing through mind. Second, because it was the first book known containing a thorough statement of Christian Science. Hence, it gave the first rules for demonstrating this science and registered the revealed truth uncontaminated by human hypotheses. Other works which have borrowed from this book without giving it credit have adulterated the science. Third, because this book has done more for teacher and student, for healer and patient, than has been accomplished by other books. The still small voice of scientific thought reaches over continent and ocean to the globe's remotest bound. The inaudible voice of truth is to the human mind as when a lion roareth. It is heard in the desert and in dark places of fear. It arouses the seven thunders of evil and stirs their latent forces to utter the full diapason of secret tones. Then is the power of truth demonstrated, made manifest in the destruction of error. Then will a voice from harmony cry, "Go and take the little book. Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey." Mortals, obey the heavenly evangel. Take divine science. Read this book from beginning to end. Study it. Ponder it. Angels are not etherealized human beings evolving animal qualities in their wings, but they are celestial visitants, flying on spiritual, not material pinions. Angels are pure thoughts from God, winged with truth and love, no matter what their individualism may be. Human conjecture confers upon angels its own forms of thought, marked with superstitious outlines, making them human creatures with suggestive feathers. But this is only fancy. It has behind it no more reality than has the sculptor's thought when he carves his Statue of Liberty, which embodies his conception of an unseen quality or condition, but which has no physical antecedent reality save in the artist's own observation and chambers of imagery. My angels are exalted thoughts, appearing at the door of some sepulchre in which human belief has buried its fondest earthly hopes. With white fingers, they point upward to a new and glorified trust, to higher ideals of life and its joys. Angels are God's representatives. These upward soaring beings Never lead towards self, sin, or materiality, but guide to the divine principle of all good, whither every real individuality, image, or likeness of God gathers. By giving earnest heed to these spiritual guides, they tarry with us, and we entertain angels unawares. Let's pray together in silence for a few moments, and then pray aloud together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Let's sing hymn number 49, 49. I'll read the third verse. Breathe through the pulses of desire thy coolness and thy balm. Let sense be dumb, let flesh retire. Speak through the earthquake, wind, and fire, O still small voice of calm. Hymn number 49. This church is a branch of the Mother Church, the first Church of Christ Scientist in Boston, Massachusetts. We hold Sunday services at 11 a.m. and Wednesday testimony meetings at 7:30 p.m. We also have services in Spanish, Sundays at 1 p.m. and Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. All services are held online and in person, and all are welcome. Third Church offers Sunday school classes, online and in person, for children and teens. These free one-hour classes are available each Sunday. At Sunday school, students learn how much God loves them and cares for them. They also learn about the Bible characters and lessons and the healing power of prayer. For more information about times and classes, please send us an email, thirdchurch@thirdchurchnyc.com. Third Church maintains a reading room on the lower level of this building. The reading room provides a quiet place for prayer and study, and all are welcome. Here you may purchase books and recordings on Christian Science. The reading room has the latest issues of the Christian Science Monitor, an award-winning international news weekly available to read or purchase. Reading room hours are Monday through Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. Replays of this church's Easter talk titled Feeling Genuine Joy in Difficult Times by Christy Hanslick, CS, are available in both English and Spanish on our website, thirdchurchnyc.com. Have you ever wished that Jesus were here to heal today? Lyle Young, CSB, a member of the Christian Science Board of Lectureship, will discuss some of the ideas that Jesus used to heal the sick. Mr. Young's talk is titled Christian Science, a High Standard of Care. To learn how you can experience God's practical healing care, come to Third Church of Christ Scientist, this church, located at Park Avenue and 63rd Street in New York City, on Saturday, August 26th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. There will be free child care with activities for children. Lyle Young will broadcast his talk in person from Canada. The program will begin at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time with organ music by Todd Peters and inspirational vocal solos by Jenny Lynn Stewart. There will be a live simultaneous Spanish translation of the talk. Online viewing and access by conference phone will be available. Please check our website, thirdchurchnyc.com, for details. This lecture will be the first in a series of Spanish radio lectures airing on WADO 1280 AM in October and November 2023. We invite you to join us on Saturday, August 26th, starting at 7:15 p.m. This meeting is now open for all to share experiences of healing and spiritual insights that prove God's ever-presence and power in their lives. If you're listening by telephone and would like to speak, press *6 and wait until your line is unmuted. Please speak directly into the microphone of your telephone. Your message will be easier to hear if you do not use the speaker function. If you are watching via Zoom, you can choose the raise your hand icon or unmute yourself and speak.
I had a really terrific experience that had to do with angels really watching over me. In the lesson last week, there was a sentence that said, "Would existence without personal friends be to you a blank?" And when I read the lesson, I usually read it with a pen in my hand. So I crossed out personal friends, and it read, "Would existence without the National Philharmonic Chorale be to you a blank?" And I just need to go back a little bit. In 2009 and 2010, 2009, I was I was on my own. My husband had passed on. I started going to concerts by myself. And I loved it the whole year. And I thought, I'd really love to be in the concert and not in the audience. I'd love to do that. I had done it in high school and college, but not in my adult life. And so I found a really terrific voice teacher, took lessons 3 times a week for 9 months, and auditioned and got into the National Cathedral Choir. And I did that for 5 years and I loved it. But in 2015, they got rid of the choir in the 8:45 service. And my voice teacher recommended I audition for the National Philharmonic Chorale. And I auditioned and I got in, and I had 5 of the most fantastic musical years of my life. I was so happy. I loved it. There were 160 members. We had a full orchestra, and we performed in a magnificent hall with wonderful acoustics and 1,500 people. It was so great. I just loved it. I'd never been so happy. And then in March of 2020, everything stopped. There were no chorus, no orchestras, no cultural events. It was very sad not to have this wonderful thing that I loved. And that went on for over a year. And then in 2021, a group of altos thought that we had heard a rumor there was going to be a 21-22 season. So one day in May of 2021, I got a phone call. I was in my car and got a call from my conductor, and I was thrilled to hear him. And he said, "Lori, we're changing everything. We're not going to have 160 members. We're going to have 80. And your name is not on the list to be in the group that's coming back." And I started crying immediately. And I told him, I thought he was a wonderful conductor. I had never been so happy, and said goodbye. And I just sat in my car heartbroken. It was the worst breakup I ever had. It was so awful for me. And several of my alto friends were also not invited back. And after 2 weeks of just crying all the time, wherever I went, I would just burst into tears. I decided that I really wanted to get a deeper understanding of the oneness of God, the oneness of divine mind. And that I could be free to let things unfold that God brought to me. And so that was May, June, July, and August of 2021. I devoted so much time to spiritual study, and particularly the Bible lesson. The Christian Science Bible lesson was the most important thing I did each day. And during this 4-month intense study, spending a lot of time studying Christian Science and studying science and health, I was deeply committed to this understanding of oneness, that there was only one God governing everything in my life. And during this time, things really changed. I changed where I lived. I changed who was in my life and out of my life. I focused, activities were coming to me, new clients were coming to me. I mean, there was so many changes that went on. And then at the end of August, my voice teacher recommended that I look at a website and see if I liked the group. So I looked at the website, and sure enough, this conductor of a wonderful group of 100 singers had studied under my conductor, had been a partner with him for 10 years as his assistant artistic director, and then went off on her own. So I thought, well, this sounds really wonderful. So I sent in a tape, and they called me and said, would you come in the following Tuesday night at 6:30 to audition? And I said, I'd love to. When I got off the phone, I thought, what am I going to sing? I have no idea. And my voice teacher's in Europe. So I said, I have such faith that there is only one mind, I will know what to sing. And I went to sleep absolutely in peace. At 3 a.m, I jumped up and I thought, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick the hardest thing I ever sang and sing it for them. So I went to my files, music files, looked at all my music and thought, Mozart's Requiem, the second movement, is the hardest alto part I have ever had to sing. So I rehearsed it from 3:30 in the morning till 9:30, called up 5 friends, made dates with them for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to call me, one at 11, 1:12, 1:23. And I said, I am scared out of my mind to audition. I am terrified. So FaceTime me so I could practice singing in front of you, which I did. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I sang to their face on their FaceTime. And by Sunday, I was so imbued with the music, I didn't even notice their face. And then Monday came and I had no voice after singing so much, but I didn't have one concern in the world. I was so sure that there was only one mind governing. All I did was study the lesson in great detail, gave myself a lot of time, read over the music, and drank water. And Tuesday in the afternoon, I vocalized and my voice was back. I went in, gave the pianist my music, sang Mozart's Requiem. The second movement was about 8 pages. And I started singing. And after a page and a half, she says, you can stop. I get it. You know the music really well. And then I vocalized with the pianist. And then I had to sing something I had never seen before and did it perfectly. And she said, well, I'd love to have you join us. You're a wonderful alto. But I have one question for you. Why did you leave the National Philharmonic Chorale? And I looked at her and said, it wasn't my choice. I would never have left there. I was so happy there. I loved every bit of it. And I said, but I had no idea what happened. And she said, well, I'll tell you, I had dinner with your conductor the week he had to make 80 phone calls to cancel people. And the maestro told him the week before that he wanted to cut the chorale from 160 to 80. And he gave him a week to do it. And he had to make 80 phone calls. She said, this had nothing to do with you. Absolutely nothing. Don't give it another thought. You're going to love singing here. So I thought, well, this is great. I was so happy. But in the back of my mind, I thought I never really could duplicate how outstanding it was. And but my most favorite concert came last spring in April of 22. It was just fabulous, wonderful. It's the only concert I ever framed the poster. And then in June of that year, I sang Mozart, Brahms Requiem with 180 people, a full orchestra, 2,000 people in attendance at the National Cathedral. So what I realized then was you can never underestimate how great the results are when I'm totally, completely imbued with the idea that there is only one mind governing my life, not two, not my own personal, just the one mind, just one God governing everything. And you cannot outline, well, this might not be as good, or it just is always going to be wonderful in staying in line with the one mind. And in that same section of the lesson last week, it said, friend, when the hour of development comes, even if you cling to a sense of personal joys, spiritual love will force you to accept what best promotes your growth. Friends will betray and enemies will slander until the lesson is sufficient to exalt you. For man's extremity is God's opportunity. And that is certainly what happened to me. And I love how it keeps unfolding so beautifully. But what was so special spiritually was to gain such a deeper sense that there is only one God that is governing every single activity of my life, everything. And Thank you, Third Church, for such wonderful Wednesday evening meetings and for your Sunday service and being able to Zoom into it. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your readings. My experience with communications with angels or with God's direction, there have been moments in my life where it just came very clear that I should do something. And that was, I think of those moments of clarity where there's a sense of, oh, this is the right thing to do, as just an angel presence. There have been fewer, I'm grateful, of moments where I had that sense of, well, this is what you should do. And I said, oh, but I've got to do this other thing. And that was never a good to listen to do the other thing. It's always good to listen to the angel message. Mrs. Eddy talks about getting getting the stature of manhood in Christ to be receptive. And I think that the studies that were provided, the Bible studies that were provided, the lesson, Christian Science, from the Christian Science quarterlies each week, are a wonderful exercise of the mind faculties that raise thinking and strengthen the ability and faith to rely on soul's activity to lead and to resolve difficulties. I've always found prayer very effective in a situation where there was a problem to be solved. Asking God for clarity on how to approach the problem. And it's just always been an effective thing to do. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the lovely readings and topic. And reminds me of my dear teacher once said that God can look around corners, and it's very true. And there's so many experiences I'm sure all of us have had the still small voice of truth talk to us. But one instance in my case was I was traveling between New York and California every week. I had a contract in Northern California, and I lived in the New Hudson Valley here. And my mother, I was taking care of my mother at my home, and I would fly back on JetBlue, take a red-eye flight back and restore the refrigerator and give my mother a hug. And I hired a fellow, African-American fellow from the local neighborhood that I knew from the church, and who had experience caring for people. And he took care of my mother for a very modest amount of money. He did it out of kindness. And I filed my taxes, and I took off certain, things that I thought were allowed to take off for my traveling expenses and what have you. And I got audited, and they were very aggressive. The auditors are very aggressive. And I ended up down at tax court, down here in Lower Manhattan, before in a courtroom. But before I went down there, I thought, well, I'll get an affidavit from this fellow who took care of my mother, because I guess they were questioning whether I had really done that. So I'll get an affidavit from him. And the thought came to me, no. And this was the still small voice of truth. It really was. It said, no, you take him down there with you. I mean, I had tried to get people to bear witness on it, but I said, no, I'll just take him down. So I took him, drove him down there. We got on the subway, went down to the lower Manhattan, to the Borough Hall here, and it filled with lawyers. The whole room was filled with lawyers and a judge, and they were taking people out to jail. And I said, oh, all right. And here I am with this fellow. And said I was not a lawyer, so I quickly asked the lawyer, hired a lawyer on the spot to help me. He said, get somebody, it's still small voice, said, get somebody to help you. So he did, and when our case came up, the judge said, we'll go to our chambers. So we went to the chambers, and I explained everything, and the lawyer, I didn't say much. I saw the lawyers going back and forth. It was like mortal mind was so self-contradictory, didn't know what to do. It was such an entanglement. But the judge kept saying, look, we can put this man on the stand, and he's just going to say, that he was there and he did it. And the whole case, and he said, I don't take affidavits. That the judge had said at the beginning, before he went to the chamber, he says, I will not take an affidavit. I have to have only witnesses. So and the judge in the chamber said, well, the judge kept saying, if we put him on the stand to the tax people, he's just going to say, he's just going to validate it. And so they finally came back, relented, and we worked out a settlement, a reasonable settlement. I had to pay some money, but it was all just very decently done. But the whole thing came from that still small voice simply said, take this person with you. And it guided me. God is working his purpose out. That you'll hear a voice behind you. It says that turn to the right or to the left. And this was certainly the still small voice of truth guiding me through a really very, very difficult situation. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your testimonies, your prayers, and your presence at this meeting. Let's conclude the meeting by singing hymn number 76. God is known in loving kindness, God, the true eternal good. Zion, ne'er will he forsake thee, trust his father motherhood. Can a mother leave her children? Can unchanging love forget? Though all earthly friends betray thee, lo, his arm enfolds thee yet. Every prayer to him is answered, prayer confiding in his will. Blessedness and joy are near thee. Hear his gentle peace be still. Hear his voice above the tempest. I have not forsaken thee. In my hand thy name is graven. I will save both thine and thee. Hymn number 76.